Okay, so jumping into part two. Um, I am just going to jump straight into opening up the Windows subsystem here, and I'm going to be looking to pull down the repo that's got the scripts in it to start using it. Okay, so find a suitable location on your um, platform for that. I'm going to use this here for me. Let's have a look. Got some random stuff that I'm using here. I'm just going to create a new uh, um, repo or a new location for it. I'm just going to call scripts as an example. And I'll go cd into scripts like that. And I'm going to do, there we go. So I'm now in just a new blank repository, so not repository folder on Windows Subsystem and Linux. And now I want to pull down these scripts and actually start using them. So I'm just going to drop this out of the way for a second. And when I come into here and we go to code, it's going to give you a path there for being able to clone the repository. So I'm just going to copy that. I'm going to come into here. I'm going to go git clone. I'm going to right click to drop the path in there that I copied from GitHub, and I'm going to hit enter. And it's going to go through and it's going to clone that repository into a directory called hashgraph tools. So if I list that now, you can see that directory there. I can then change into that directory and see all of the scripts that are there as part of the repository in the background. Job done. Okay, that's the first part. That's the first battle, if you like, just getting hold of that particular code. It is a public repo, so you shouldn't have any issues around authentication with it. So that should be okay. Next thing that we want to do really is being able to start working with this code and changing things that are going to be specific to what you need. So I use, like I said, Visual Studio Code for it. I've got the WSL or the Windows Subsystem Linux sort of extension installed for VS Code. I'll add that to the notes as well. And that just enables me to simply do this. I can do code dot, meaning for the current directory, hit enter, and it will open up this folder in Visual Studio Code. It wants to ask whether I trust the code that I'm opening, which is obviously important that it's something that you trust and from a known source. I do trust it because it's me, so I trust myself. And then in here, we then have the code that we want to be working through. Okay, so in particular in here, I'm going to point out a couple of things for you. So first of all, we've got this environment file. This is the blank environment file that I ship with the code that has the settings in there that you're going to need to use to be able to execute some of the code that we're looking at. There is an images directory with an example image in it, just test image 2. I've left that in there so you've got something that you can play with when you're trying to mint. And then finally, in terms of this minting video, this is the mint script that we use itself. I have tried desperately to ensure that I keep all of the stuff that you need to be aware of in a very explicit area. So I've kind of marked it here with start, edit zone, only make changes below here, and the same here, only make changes above it. Obviously, if you change anything outside of that, I have no idea kind of what it is that you might be facing if you kind of ask a question of me and say this isn't working. So if you can try and at least keep to this area for your changes, if you want to play around with it, if you're somebody that's got experience with scripting and developing anyway, go for broke and enjoy it. The idea is that you have a little bit of freedom here to sort of do what you want with this example at play. Right, so let's get into actually doing some minting with it. The first thing I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to make sure that I've got an account and a private key to work with. As a sort of minimum, I've separated these out into a treasury and an operator key. They can be the same thing for this example's sake. And equally, there are scenarios in this minting process where you could split that out even more. I'm not going to cover that off in this video because it's just, again, it would just take too long. So I'm just going to pop my test account into here for the test net. So I've got a an account ID here. I'm going to pop that in there. I'm going to pop that in there as well. I'm just going to use the same one that I'm utilizing at this point. I'm going to look to blur this out when I publish this so that I'm not putting my private key from a test account out there. It doesn't really matter too much because it is just a test account, but I'd rather not have that in public. So that's there for that part. Then I also need to have the storage key that I'm going to be using for NFT dot storage as well. So bear with me for a second and I will just grab that. I'll pause the video and I'll come back in a second. Okay, so I'm currently on the NFT.storage website. I've logged in with my Git account in this, or GitHub account rather in this case, and you can simply go to API keys to get copies of your API key or to create API keys if you need to. It's very user friendly, so feel free to grab yours from there. I'm just grabbed mine and I'm going to again paste mine straight into the env file or the environment file here. I'm leaving this on testnet because these are testnet accounts that I'm playing with, and I simply save that at this point, right? So at this point, we've got all of the different credentials in place that we need to be able to mint, essentially. So if I jump over to the mint file here, it's really then going to come down to configuring the particular minting operation that I want to execute to be able to go through and mint some NFTs. So I will come back to this as a part 3, just to keep breaking this up a little bit, just in case I make any whopping mistakes. It gives me a chance to sort of get a breather between undertaking each of these videos. So I'll see you in the next part.